Zara noticed a curve to Lisa's lips which she had learned indicated amusement among humans. You prefer the inefficient method. Cooking is enjoyable. Lisa explained it. Engages the senses, it's creative. As they ate, Zara asked more questions about human pair bonding, trying to understand the complex emotional and biological factors involved. So attraction begins with visual assessment, then progresses to chemical compatibility through scent detection, followed by behavioral evaluation. Zara summarized. Her understanding. Lisa nearly choked on her food, laughing. That's technically true, but we usually just call it falling in love. It feels less scientific than that. Zara blinked rapidly, frustrated by her inability to fully grasp the concept. I believe I need observational data. The next day, Lisa took Zara to various locations around the city. A park where humans engaged in recreational activities, a shopping center where they acquired goods, a cafe where they consumed beverages and socialized, and finally to meet some of Lisa's friends at a gathering she called a dinner party. The humans at the party showed various reactions to Zara's presence, some openly curious, asking questions about her species and homeworld, others more reserved but polite. Everyone seemed fascinated by her forearms and eyes. A human male named Ryan seemed particularly interested in Alliance technology, while a female called Samantha asked thoughtful questions about Zara's research. Zara noticed subtle behaviors between some of the humans present, touches, lingering eye contact, proximity. She recorded these observations mentally for later analysis. After several hours, the gathering became louder. The humans consumed a substance called alcohol, which seemed to affect their neural functions, making them more animated and less inhibited. Zara watched as two humans began a ritualized movement pattern to rhythmic sounds. That's dancing, Lisa explained when she noticed Zara's attention. It's a form of expression, and sometimes, courtship, Zara repeated. This is part of the pair bonding process. Sometimes Lisa smiled, watching her friends with affection as the evening progressed. Zara observed various interactions between the humans, noting patterns and exceptions to those patterns. The complexity was overwhelming, yet fascinating. On the journey back to Lisa's home, Zara processed her observations. I notice humans touch frequently. Is this significant? Lisa nodded. Physical contact is important to us. It communicates many things: comfort, affection, solidarity, attraction. Back at the cottage, Zara asked to access the information network. Lisa called the internet to research human relationships further. She spent hours absorbing data about human courtship rituals, marriage customs, family structures, and the biological processes underlying reproduction. The more she learned, the more questions she had. Why would a species evolve such complicated methods for something as fundamental as reproduction? Why expend so much energy on pair selection and maintenance? The following morning, Lisa found Zara still processing information. Have you been researching all night? Lisa asked, concerned. Zara confirmed she had. Humans are puzzling. She admitted, your reproductive processes seem inefficient, yet you dedicate significant cultural resources to ritualizing and celebrating them. Lisa sat beside her. What specifically confuses you? Zara hesitated, then asked the question that had been forming since her first days studying humans. Why do you make reproduction so complicated when simpler methods would be more efficient? Lisa considered the question carefully. I think the complexity serves a purpose, she said finally. It creates bonds between people. Commitment to raising offspring together. It builds communities and families. The inefficiency you see is actually creating something valuable. Social structures that help us survive. Zara thought about this. Humans reproduced in pairs but created extended networks of relationships around that core unit. Perhaps there was an evolutionary advantage she hadn't considered. Over the following days, Zara continued her observations, visiting a hospital where human infants were born, a school where young humans were educated, and various locations where adult humans engaged in social activities. She began to see patterns in what had initially seemed like chaos. The underlying structure of human society became clearer, though still alien to her understanding. What surprised her most was how her own perspectives were shifting each day on Earth. Changed her understanding not just of humans, but of her own species and their differences. One evening, as they walked through a park, watching the sunset color the sky, Zara realized she had developed what might be called affection for this strange planet, and its contradictory inhabitants' text, markdown story, Part 3 1 week into her Earth visit. Zara received a priority communication from the Alliance vessel. Harmony Commander Lena requested immediate contact concerning a developing situation. Lysa provided Zara with a secure communication room at the local Alliance embassy, where the commander appeared on screen, her silver skin shimmering with concern. "We have a problem." Junior scientist Lena began without preamble. "The Alliance Council has received protests from the conservative faction regarding your research with humans. They claim studying human reproduction methods poses contamination risks to our cultural practices." Zara felt her skin darken with alarm. "But that makes no sense, Commander. My research is purely scientific." Lena made a gesture of acknowledgement. "Nevertheless, the conservatives have significant influence. They are demanding your research be terminated and all data sequestered." Zara felt something she rarely experienced: anger. Her four hands clenching briefly. "This research is valuable to understanding humans as potential, long-term alliance partners." "I agree," Lena said, "which is why I'm warning you. The Council has not made a decision yet, but conservative representatives are traveling to Earth to evaluate your work. Firsthand, they arrive in 3 days after the communication ended." Zara explained the situation to Lisa, who looked troubled. "So these conservatives think learning about human reproduction will somehow contaminate your species?" Lisa clarified. Zara nodded. "Among my people, reproduction has always been communal and clinical. The idea of pair bonding and emotional attachment to the process is considered primitive. By some factions, they fear such concepts might appeal to our youth and disrupt our population management systems." Lisa considered this. It's interesting that ideas alone are seen as so threatening. For the next 2 days, Zara worked frantically to organize her research findings, ensuring her methodology was impeccable and the scientific value clearly documented. Lisa helped gathering supporting materials from human biological and anthropological studies. On the 3rd day, representatives from the conservative faction arrived, 3 tall, silver-skinned figures with formal alliance insignia and disapproving expressions. The lead representative introduced herself as Elder Morau. "Have reviewed your preliminary findings." Junior scientist Mora began, her tone cold, and her 4 eyes narrowed. "You appear to have become unnecessarily focused on human reproductive behaviors." Zara stood straight, trying to maintain professional composure. "Elder, I have followed standard xenobiological protocols studying all aspects of human biology and social structure. Reproduction is merely one component." Mora made a dismissive gesture. "The humans' primitive methods are well documented. There is no need for continued research in this area." Liza, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. "Excuse me, Elder Mora," she said politely but firmly. "I believe there may be a misunderstanding about the nature of our work." All 4 of Mora's eyes turned to Lisa suspiciously. "The human speak." Zara quickly introduced Lisa as her research partner, emphasizing her credentials. Lisa continued. "Our research extends far beyond simple reproductive mechanics. We're studying the interconnection between human biology, social structures, and cultural development, how our physiological realities shape our societies and technologies." Mora seemed slightly taken aback by Lisa's articulate explanation. "May I show you something?" Lisa asked, not waiting for permission. She activated a display showing comparative data from multiple alliance species and humans. "Each has developed unique reproductive strategies," she explained, "and those strategies invariably influence their social structures, technological development, and even their approach to space explorations." Zara watched in admiration as Lisa methodically demonstrated the scientific significance of their research, linking reproduction to broader patterns of species development. Humans found technological solutions to biological challenges. Lisa continued. "Because our reproductive strategy required extensive resource investment in few offspring, we developed medicine to ensure survival, collaborative childcare to share the burden, and eventually technologies that extended beyond reproduction." Mora and her companions listened with reluctant interest as Lisa connected dots between human biology and the very technologies that had made humans valuable. Alliance partner Zara added her own analysis. "The data suggests that understanding a species' reproductive strategy provides insight into their decision-making, prioritization of resources, and likely technological trajectory. This has significant implications for future alliance partnerships. By the end of the presentation, Mora looked less certain of her position. This perspective has merit. She acknowledged reluctantly, however, concerns about cultural contamination remain. Zara took a calculated risk, Elder. Mora, would you be willing to observe humans directly before making your final recommendation? The experience might provide context our reports cannot convey. Surprisingly, Mora agreed, and the following day Zara and Lisa took the conservative delegation to various human locations, carefully selected to demonstrate the connection between human biology and culture. They visited a hospital where advanced medical technology preserved fragile human lives, a university where knowledge was transferred across generations, and a community center where humans of different ages interacted and supported one another. Mora seemed particularly interested in a family gathering they observed at a local park, watching as humans of various ages interacted, the care shown to both the youngest and oldest members. Your species invests considerable resources in non-reproductive members, Mora noted, observing elderly humans playing with children. Lisa nodded that intergenerational knowledge transfer is crucial to our survival. It allows us to accumulate wisdom and experience beyond a single lifetime. Zara could see Mora processing this information, comparing it to alliance practices where efficiency often took precedence over such connections. As they continued their observations, Mora became increasingly engaged, asking thoughtful questions and taking detailed notes. By the end of the day, her initial hostility had noticeably diminished. That evening, Mora requested a private meeting with Zara. Your research has merit, junior scientist, she admitted. I see now that understanding human reproduction in its full context provides valuable insight into their species. Zara felt relief wash over her. Thank you, Elder. However, Mora continued, I remain concerned about how this information will be presented to our people, particularly the younger generations. The emotional component of human reproduction could be misinterpreted as superior to our more efficient methods. Zara considered this carefully. I understand your concern, Elder. Perhaps we could collaborate on presenting this research in a way that acknowledges the scientific value while contextualizing it within our different evolutionary paths. Mora seemed surprised by this suggestion. You would welcome conservative input. Zara nodded. Diversity of perspective strengthens science, does it not? For the first time, Mora made the gesture of approval. This approach may satisfy both scientific and cultural concerns. I will recommend that your research continue with appropriate oversight. The following day, Mora and her delegation departed. Zara felt both relief and pride that her work would continue. Lisa celebrated their victory with what she called champagne, a bubbly beverage that made Zara's skin tingle. You were amazing, she told Zara. Standing up to conservatives from your own species took courage. Zara made a gesture of dismissal. The science was sound. They simply needed to understand its value. Later that evening, as they sat in Lisa's garden watching stars appear in the darkening sky, Lisa asked a question Zara hadn't anticipated. After studying human reproduction and relationships so closely, has it changed how you view your own species' practices? Zara was silent for a long moment, considering. I have always accepted our communal approach as evolutionarily advantageous, she said finally. But observing humans has made me question whether efficiency should be the only measure of value. Lisa nodded encouragingly. There is something compelling about the human approach. Zara continued, the depth of connection, the personal investment. I find myself wondering what my people might have lost in our pursuit of efficiency. Do you think others of your kind might feel the same way? Lisa asked. Perhaps Zara acknowledged, especially the younger generations who already question some of our traditions. That is what the conservatives fear. Not contamination, but choice. The possibility that given alternatives, some might choose differently. As night fully descended, Zara looked up at the stars, thinking about the alliance, the humans, and the unexpected ways this research had changed her own perspective. Text Markdown Story. Part 4 with the conservative threat. Neutralized. Zara and Lisa focused on expanding their research. They designed a series of interviews with human couples in different types of relationships to better understand the variety of human bonding. Morning as they prepared for the first interview, Lisa noticed Zara seemed distracted. Everything okay? She asked. Zara hesitated, then decided to share her thoughts. I've received messages from younger members of my species who have heard about my research. There appears to be growing interest in human relationship structures. Lisa looked intrigued. What kind of interest? They are questioning our traditional approaches. Zara explained, particularly those who work closely with humans. They find your pair bonding concept intriguing. Some are even experimenting with it. This seemed to surprise Lisa. Are they allowed to do that? Zara made a gesture equivalent to a shrug. There are no laws against it. Only strong cultural expectations, efficiency, and genetic diversity have been our guiding principles for generations, but principles can change. Their first interview subject arrived, interrupting the conversation. A woman named Olivia who had been married to her husband for 50 years. Zara observed with fascination as Olivia described meeting her husband, their courtship, marriage, raising children together, and now growing old as partners. Her 4 eyes recorded every expression, every gesture, noting the emotional resonance in Olivia's voice when she spoke of their life together. What sustained your pair bond through difficulties? Zara asked. Olivia thought for a moment. Commitment, choice, love. She said, we've chosen each other every day for 50 years, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. Zara tilted her head, struggling to understand love. You use this term frequently. What does it mean precisely? Olivia smiled. That's like asking what light means precisely. She said it's both simple and impossible to define. Its feeling connected to someone so deeply that their happiness becomes essential to your own. This concept troubled Zara. Such dependency seemed dangerous, yet humans thrived with it. Over the following days, they interviewed more couples, some newly paired, some with decades together, some raising children, others without, some whose relationships had ended and formed new bonds. Each story added complexity to Zara's understanding. One evening, as they reviewed their findings, Lisa asked Zara about her own personal status. Among her people, do you have pair bonds? Zara explained that her species formed temporary collaborative partnerships for projects or research, but nothing resembling human relationships. We reproduce by contributing genetic material to the communal pools. She said it is considered a civic duty performed every 5 years with genetically selected partners. Lisa looked thoughtful. So you've never experienced personal attachment to a reproductive partner? The question made Zara uncomfortable. Such attachment would be considered inappropriate, she said. Relationships are meant to serve collective goals, not individual desires. But what do you desire? Lisa pressed. Zara had no immediate answer in her culture. Individual desire was rarely discussed. What mattered was contribution to the whole. The question lingered in her mind through the night. The next phase of their research took them to different human communities around the world, each with variations on pair bonding and family structure. They visited a multi-generational household in Mexico, a community in Sweden with progressive family policies, and a traditional village in Ghana, where child raising was a communal responsibility. What fascinated Zara most was how humans maintained emotional bonds despite vastly different cultural practices. The underlying connection between individuals remained consistent across geographical and cultural boundaries. After 3 weeks of intensive research, Zara received another communication, from her homeworld this time, from a group calling themselves the New Wave, a youth movement inspired partly by her preliminary research findings. They requested a virtual meeting, which Zara cautiously accepted. 5 young members of her species appeared on screen, their skin patterns indicating excitement. Your work with humans has sparked important conversations. Junior scientist, their leader, said, we believe our species has sacrificed too much for efficiency. We want to explore alternative approaches to connection. Zara listened carefully as they explained their vision. Not an abandonment of communal values, but an expansion to include more personal choice and emotional connection. They seek to integrate human concepts with our traditions. One said, we believe there is value in both approaches. Zara found herself both concerned and intrigued by their ideas. Integration rather than replacement seemed reasonable, yet she worried about unintended consequences. What does the Elder Council think of your movement? She asked. Predictably, they disapprove. Their spokesperson replied, but they cannot stop the conversation. Your research has started after. The call ended. Zara shared the development with Lisa, who seemed unsurprised. Ideas are powerful, she said, especially ones that touch on fundamental aspects of life like connection, reproduction, and family. Your research opened a door that was probably ready to be opened. Zara wasn't certain whether to feel pride or alarm at what she had inadvertently started. As their Earth research neared completion, Commander Lena requested a comprehensive report for the Alliance Council. Zara and Lisa worked together, synthesizing their findings into a document that emphasized the scientific significance. While acknowledging the cultural implications, Lisa noticed Zara's hesitation as they prepared the final draft. "You're worried about how this will be received?" Zara nodded. "I began this project as pure scientific inquiry, but it has become something more. The information we present could influence my species' development." Lisa placed her hand gently on Zara's arm, a gesture of reassurance Zara had come to appreciate. "All knowledge has that potential," she said. "But knowledge itself isn't harmful. It's how it's used that matters." The night before submitting their report, Zara received one more unexpected communication from her homeworld. "From Elder Morai have been following the developments among our youth." The elder said, her tone surprisingly mild. "Your research has indeed sparked change, junior scientist. But perhaps change that was inevitable." Zara was startled by this shift in Mora's position. "You no longer oppose my work." Mora made a complex gesture indicating qualified acceptance. "I have lived long enough to see many changes in our society," she said. "Efficiency served us well when resources were scarce. But perhaps in this age of abundance other values may serve us too." Zara felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "Thank you, Elder. I still believe caution is warranted," Mora added. "But I will speak in favor of continuing your research when the council meets." The following day, Zara and Lisa submitted their report to the Alliance Council, requesting approval for a more extensive research program including cultural exchange between younger members of both species. While awaiting the council's decision, they continued their interviews, focusing now on humans who had chosen non-traditional relationship structures, those who remained single by choice, those in polyamorous arrangements, and those who had created families through technology rather than biological reproduction. Each story added nuance to Zara's understanding of human connection. What had initially seemed inefficient and chaotic now revealed itself as a complex adaptive system with both strengths and weaknesses compared to her own species' approach. One evening as they watched the sunset from a mountain overlook, Lisa asked Zara directly, "Has this research changed you personally?" Zara considered the question with care. It would be unscientific to claim perfect objectivity. She admitted, "I find myself questioning aspects of my upbringing. I never thought to question before seeing alternatives makes one conscious of choice where before there seemed only inevitability." Lisa nodded, understanding. "And have you reached any conclusions?" Zara turned her 4 eyes to the horizon. "I believe both our species have something to learn from each other," she said. "Perhaps the ideal lies somewhere between your emotional connections and our communal efficiency. A balance I had not imagined possible before coming to Earth." Story Part 5 text markdown. Story Part 5. The Alliance Council took 3 weeks to review Zara and Lisa's report, during which time they continued their research, visiting more human communities and gathering additional data. The waiting was difficult for Zara, who found herself increasingly invested in the outcome. When the decision finally came, it surprised them both. The council not only approved continued research, but proposed a cultural exchange program. Young humans and young Alliance members would spend time learning about each other's reproductive and social practices with appropriate scientific oversight. Commander Lena delivered the news personally. "The council recognizes the scientific value of your work," she told Zara, "and acknowledges that cultural exchange is inevitable as our species continue to work together." Zara felt a complex mix of emotions, relief, pride, and something else, a sense of purpose that transcended her scientific training. Exchange program would begin in 6 months with 20 volunteers from each species. Zara and Lisa were appointed as program directors, tasked with designing a curriculum that would be both educational and culturally sensitive. "We need to create something that honors both approaches," Lisa said as they began planning, not presenting either as superior, just different adaptations to different evolutionary pressures. Zara agreed, though she noticed her thinking had evolved since beginning this project. I once viewed everything through the lens of efficiency, she admitted, but efficiency toward what purpose? Survival, reproduction. Those are baseline needs. But perhaps there are higher aspirations for sentient species. Lisa looked intrigued. Like what connection, understanding, meaning? Zara suggested things my people discuss philosophically, but rarely center in our daily lives. As they developed the exchange program, Zara received regular updates from the New Wave movement on her homeworld. Their numbers were growing, and they had begun small experiments with pair bonding, creating voluntary partnerships based on personal choice, rather than assigned collaboration. Found it difficult. Zara told Lisa after one such update, our species isn't accustomed to the emotional intensity humans seem to navigate daily. There have been conflicts, confusion. Lisa nodded understandingly. Any cultural change has growing pains. She said, especially one this fundamental. The first human volunteers for the exchange program were selected, a diverse group, ranging from biologists and anthropologists to artists and philosophers, each bringing different perspectives to the project. Zara interviewed them all, assessing their adaptability and genuine interest in alliance culture. Among them was a woman named Grace, a cultural anthropologist with particular interest in how reproductive strategies shaped social structures. Her thoughtful questions and openness impressed Zara. Similarly, the alliance volunteers represented various perspectives, from traditionalists seeking to understand humans while maintaining their own values, to progressives openly curious about human bonding approaches. As the program launch approached, Zara realized her time on Earth was coming to an end. She had extended her stay far beyond the original research timeline, but would soon need to return to the Harmony to prepare for the arrival of the human exchange participants. This realization brought unexpected sadness. I have become attached to this planet, she confessed to Lisa one evening, and to its people. Lisa smiled. You're practically human. Now, she teased. Zara made a sound that approximated human laughter, a skill she had practiced, perhaps in some ways, though. I still find many human practices puzzling. Her last week on Earth was filled with preparations and farewells. Lisa organized a gathering of all the humans who had participated in their research, creating what she called a cultural fusion celebration. With elements from both species' traditions, Zara was touched by the gesture and by the genuine connections she had formed with many of the humans. These relationships, different from any she'd known before, held value she hadn't anticipated when beginning her scientific mission. The night before her departure, Zara and Lisa sat in Lisa's garden under the stars. They had shared many conversations in this space over the months, each expanding Zara's understanding of humans and herself. I want to thank you, Lisa said. Your research has changed how some of us think about our own practices too, making us more conscious of choices we take for granted. Zara tilted her head curiously. How so? Lisa considered before answering. I've always accepted pair bonding as natural, but seeing it through your eyes helped me recognize its challenges and limitations too. The pressure it puts on individuals, the inequalities it can create. Your perspective has been valuable. Zara felt warmth spread through her at this acknowledgement. Their exchange had truly been mutual. When I return home, she said, many will want to know if humans are superior or inferior to us in their approach to reproduction and connection. And what will you tell them? Lisa asked. That it's the wrong question, Zara replied. Different evolutionary paths led to different solutions, each with strengths and limitations. The interesting question is what we might create together, learning from both traditions. Lisa smiled. I like that answer. The following morning at the spaceport, Lisa accompanied Zara to the shuttle that would return her to the orbiting Harmony. They had already planned their next communication and the ongoing research projects they would oversee remotely, but the farewell still felt significant. Zara hesitated at the shuttle's entrance, feeling the need to express something beyond professional appreciation. Working with you has been the most meaningful experience of my career, she said. Lisa nodded. I feel the same way. Then impulsively, Lisa stepped forward and embraced Zara, a human gesture of connection that Zara had observed but rarely experienced firsthand. After a moment's surprise, Zara carefully wrapped two of her forearms around Lisa, returning the hug as the shuttle lifted off. Zara watched Earth recede through the viewport, the blue planet that had changed her understanding of not just humans but her own species and herself. She had arrived seeking scientific knowledge about alien reproduction and would return with questions about connection, purpose, and meaning she had never thought to ask. 6 months later, when the first human exchange participants arrived on the Harmony, Zara welcomed them with a formal alliance greeting, followed by something new, a human-style embrace for Lisa, who arrived as lead human representative. Around them, Alliance crew members watched with a mixture of curiosity and caution, some disapproving of the foreign gesture, others intrigued, perhaps even envious of the easy connection it represented. This is just the beginning, Zara thought as she led the humans to their quarters. The first steps in a cultural exchange that would inevitably transform both species, not through the replacement of traditions, but through their evolution, informed by new perspectives. That evening, she received a message from the New Wave movement on her homeworld. They had established their first formal pair. The humans had surprised everyone with their rapid technological advancement, going from primitive radio signals to faster-than-light travel in less than 200 years. But what fascinated Zara most were the reports about their biology and social structures so different from her own species. Commander Lena approached, standing beside Zara, her silver skin reflecting the planet's blue glow. "Are you ready for your first contact mission, junior scientist?" She asked, her voice melodic and calm. Zara straightened her uniform, her purple skin darkening slightly with nervousness. "Yes, Commander, though I must admit the reports about humans are quite perplexing. They seem so fragile, yet they survived on a predator-filled world." Lena made a sound that passed for laughter. Among her kind, humans are full of contradictions. That is why the Alliance finds them so interesting, and why your research will be valuable. The shuttle bay hummed with activity as Zara packed her equipment. The human delegation would arrive soon, and she would be assigned to work directly with one of their scientists, an unprecedented opportunity for someone so junior. Lisa Miller, Earth biologist, first contact team. The announcement came over the speakers as the airlock cycled open. Zara watched as a small group of humans entered the bay, her 4 eyes widening at seeing them in person. They were shorter than she'd expected, with only 2 arms and legs, their skin in various shades of brown and pink, bizarre hair on their heads and surprisingly expressive faces. One stepped forward, a female with auburn hair pulled back and curious green eyes. She wore the blue uniform of Earth Science Division and carried a case similar to Zara's own research kit. Zara approached, feeling suddenly self-conscious about her height, towering nearly 2 feet above the human. "Welcome to the Alliance vessel Harmony. I am junior xenobiologist Zara," she said carefully. Pronouncing the human words, Lisa looked up with a smile that revealed flat white teeth. "Greetings, Zara. I'm looking forward to our collaboration," she replied, her voice higher pitched than Alliance standard. "The commander assigned us Laboratory 7. Zara explained, leading the way through corridors designed for beings of many different shapes and sizes. Some humans they passed stared openly at Zara, while others seemed determined not to look at all. Zara found this confusing. "Are my appearance frightening to you?" she asked Lisa as they entered. The Lisa laughed. "Not frightening, just very different from what we're used to on Earth. You're actually quite beautiful in an alien way." Zara felt her skin flush with purple bioluminescence at the compliment, a reaction she couldn't control. "Thank you. Your species is aesthetically interesting as well." The laboratory became their shared space for the coming weeks as they exchanged information about their respective species. Zara learned that humans had internal skeletons rather than the flexible cartilage structure of her people, and that their reproduction methods were completely foreign to Alliance understanding. One day, while they were comparing cellular samples, Lisa asked Zara about her species' family structures. "We develop in communal pools," Zara explained. "Each regional pool containing genetic material from hundreds of contributors. We don't have the concept of parents as." Lisa looked fascinated. "So you don't know who contributed to your genetic makeup?" Zara tilted her head. "No. We are all considered children of the pool, though we maintain genetic records to prevent compatibility issues with future generations." "What about humans?" Lisa explained the human concept of family's conception, pregnancy and childbirth, while Zara recorded everything with increasing amazement. "You carry your offspring inside your body," Zara clarified, wanting to be certain she'd understood. Yes, for approximately 9 months, Lisa confirmed, and only 2 individuals contribute genetic material. Typically. Yes, though we have some technological variations now. Zara's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep thought. You form permanent pair bonds with your reproductive partners. Sometimes, Lisa smiled. We call it marriage, but it's not universal. The more Zara learned about humans, the more questions she had. Their biology seemed inefficient compared to her species, yet they had thrived. Their emotional attachments to offspring and mates seemed restrictive, yet had produced complex social structures that rivaled the alliances. During their 3rd week of research, Lisa invited Zara to join her for a meal in the human section of the ship. I thought you'd enjoy seeing how we live when not working. She explained. The human quarters were a revelation to Zara, filled with color personal items, photographs of other humans, and objects that Lisa called art. Decorative items with no practical function. The concept was foreign to Zara, whose people valued efficiency above all else. Why create something with no purpose, she asked, examining a small sculpture. Lisa considered the question. It brings joy. Beauty makes us feel something that's its purpose. They shared a meal carefully selected to be compatible with both biologies, while Lisa explained human customs around food, the social aspects, the pleasure they derived from flavors and textures. Zara was particularly intrigued by the concept of cooking. We synthesize nutrients based on biological needs. She explained the idea of preparation as an art form is fascinating. As their research progressed, Zara began to understand that much of human behavior revolved around things her species would consider unnecessary: emotions, preferences, desires. Humans seem to make choices based on feelings rather than pure logic. During one experiment measuring human neurological responses, Lisa explained the concept of falling in love. Zara struggled to comprehend. It sounds like a malfunction, she said, a chemical imbalance that impairs judgment. Lisa laughed. You're not entirely wrong, but it's also one of the most beautiful parts of being human. Zara wondered if her inability to understand was a failure in her research methodology. Commander Lena had warned that understanding humans would be challenging. Perhaps she needed more data. She requested permission to visit Earth to observe humans in their natural environment. A bold request for a junior researcher, but to her surprise it was granted, with Lisa assigned as her guide. As the shuttle descended toward Earth, Zara felt both excitement and apprehension about what she would discover on the planet of contradictions, where beings formed pair bonds, built purposeless, beautiful objects, and carried their young inside their bodies. Humans were undeniably strange, but increasingly fascinating to her. The shuttle touched down at the international spaceport in a region Lisa called Colorado Mountains. Rose in the distance under a clear blue sky that seemed to go on forever. Unlike the contained environment Zara was accustomed. Welcome to Earth, Lisa said as the door opened, letting in air that carried 1,000 new scents. In the first chapter of Zara's greatest adventure, text markdown story. Part 2. The first thing Zara noticed about Earth was the overwhelming sensory input. The open sky stretched above her without the familiar containment fields of space habitations. The air carried countless scents, some pleasant, some puzzling, and the gravity pulled at her body differently than the standardized force on Alliance vessels. Lisa guided her from the spaceport to a vehicle she called a car. Stepping inside, Zara had to fold her tall frame carefully, her 4 arms tucked against her body to avoid hitting the roof. Well, stay at my home in Boulder, Lisa explained, driving away from the spaceport. I thought it would give you a better understanding of daily human life than a hotel or research facility. Zara nodded, watching the landscape through the window. Humans in various clothing walking together, buildings of different shapes and sizes, vegetation growing seemingly at random. It was chaotic compared to the ordered environments of her homeworld. Lisa's home was a small structure she called a cottage with a garden surrounding it. It had wooden elements which fascinated Zara, as her people rarely used biological materials in construction. This dwelling is only for you? Zara asked. Calculating the space, Lisa smiled. Yes, just me, though I have family and friends who visit. Is that unusual for your people? Zara explained how her species lived in communal dwellings, sharing resources and responsibilities. The concept of private space existed, but not to the extent humans seem to prefer. Tour of Lisa's home revealed more curiosities. A kitchen filled with implements for food preparation, a bedroom with a large soft platform for sleeping, a bathroom with water dispensing facilities, and a living room with comfortable seating arranged. To face a screen, you spend time looking at this screen, Zara observed. Lisa nodded. We call it television. It shows stories, entertainment, news, information. Stories. Zara repeated the word carefully on the ship. You mentioned stories, but I did not fully understand the concept. Lisa thought for a moment. Stories are narratives we create or retell. They can be real or imaginary. They help us understand ourselves and others, share experiences across time and space, communicate values and ideas. Zara tilted, her head in the gesture her people used to indicate interest, purposely created falsehoods for learning. This sounds contradictory, Lisa laughed. Fiction isn't exactly falsehood. It's more like exploring possibilities through imagination. That evening, Lisa prepared a meal for them both, carefully following the dietary guidelines provided by Alliance scientists. Zara watched, fascinated by the process. You could use a synthesizer. Lisa pointed out it's more efficient.